A man without ethics is a wild beast loosed upon this world. In this lecture, we are going to provide an introduction to ethics.
Ethics. The term ethics often describes the investigation and analysis of moral principles and dilemmas. Traditionally, philosophers and religious scholars have studied ethics. More recently, scholars from various disciplines have entered the field, creating new approaches to the study of ethics, such as behavioral ethics and applied ethics. The term ethics can also refer to rules or guidelines that establish what conduct is right and wrong for individuals and for groups. For example, codes of conduct express relevant ethical standards for many professions, such as medicine, law, journalism, and accounting. Some philosophers make a distinction between ethics and morals, but many people use the terms ethics and morals interchangeably when talking about personal beliefs, actions, or principles. For example, it's common to say, "My ethics prevent me from cheating." It's also common to use morals in this sentence instead. So, whether we use the term ethics to refer to our personal beliefs or rules of conduct, or the study of moral philosophy, ethics provides a framework for understanding and interpreting right and wrong in society.
I like reading books. I spent a lot of time at the bookstore, and I saw this thing, it killed me. It was this book, Ethics for Dummies. As a comic, I'm like, oh, I gotta get this. But it was 29 bucks, and fortunately, I'd already purchased The Idiot's Guide to Shoplifting. Figure even if I get caught with it, I'll be like, well, I haven't read it yet.
Ethics, you've heard of that, right? We all have them, or at least we think we do, but when it comes to the workplace, what you say or what you do could have a major impact on your career. Here to put your business ethics to the test is Bruce Weinstein. He is ethics columnist for Business Week Online, and he has some great questions for us. Bruce, great to see you.
You too, Jerry.
All right, I'm going to read the question.
All right.
I'm going to tell you what I think, and
okay.
then you can tell me where I don't have ethics, okay?
Maybe you got them all right. Who knows?
All right, number one.
Okay.
Someone you've just hired seems to be attracted to you, and you're attracted to them. Both of you are single. Would you A, ask them out on a date, B, have only a professional relationship, C, ask the person if your intuition is correct, and if it is, discreetly pursue a romantic relationship? Okay. So, Bruce, I have to tell you, everybody dates people in the workplace, but everything's different, I think, if it's your boss or someone who's working for you.
Well, just because everyone does it doesn't make it right?
Well, wait a minute before you go there. I think the choice that I would make is not even in those choices. I would say, wait it out. If it's that important to you, maybe you change places in the organization so that you can date that person.
That probably is the best way to go. Of the three choices, though, the right one to do is B, have a professional relationship only. Because let's face it, most relationships don't work out. How many people do you know who are married or in a relationship to the very first person they ever dated? No. So when this relationship fizzles at work, you're going to feel uncomfortable, the other person is going to feel uncomfortable, and one or both of you may have to go because the company, their reputation is at risk, and your obligation to clients may be hurt.
Well, and especially because it's employee-employer, the direct report relationship, that makes it more complicated.
Well, and it also opens the door to sexual harassment if there's an imbalance of power.
Maybe a
lawsuit. So there are legal as well as ethical issues potentially.
All right, number two, at a family dinner out, you used your corporate card because you forgot your personal one. When it comes time to do your expenses, you A, put in a client's name whose account has plenty of cash in it, B, mark it as a personal expense and reimburse your employer, or C, ask your boss to approve it because with all the late nights you work, you've missed a lot of meals with your family. Okay, Bruce, my answer is C, if you do work late nights. I mean, come on. Maybe it makes sense to see if you can't expense it, but I would disclose.
Not the best of the three, because there are two ethical concepts.
Wrong?
Well, in this, unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Because there are two ethical concepts at stake here. Honesty and fairness. And you are being honest by being upfront with the boss, but other coworkers presumably worked long and hard, and if they don't get the perk, it's unfair to them. How are they going to feel?
Well, what if I negotiate my own perk, Bruce? Does that mean...
But again, you have to think about, or at least the person who's authorizing this has to think about how this will affect the morale of everyone, and also really what's fair. You have to treat like cases alike, unlike cases unlike.
All right, so you just have to pay for the dinner yourself. All right, number three. In a public restaurant, you overhear colleagues discussing confidential client client information and mention the client by name? Would you A, ignore it, B, talk with your colleagues about your concerns and leave it at that, or C, report them to your supervisor? This is tricky.
Yes, it is.
I think the problem is that it's already happened. It's out there. You
Yes.
can't correct it. I don't want to go to the boss because I don't
But
want to
can't you
tell on
prevent
them.
future occurrences if these folks were to have
I would
such
talk to them.
That's right. Talk with them and leave it at that. Because if you do nothing, as Edmund Burke said, all that is necessary for evil to flourish is for good people to do nothing. So it allows a problematic situation to continue. And if you blow the whistle, that's probably too harsh a response. Unless your company requires you to inform them, talking with them in most cases will take care of the problem. Just bringing it to their attention is enough to put an end to it.
Are there any basic rules of thumb you would tell people in the workplace, ways of making these decisions
Yes.
without having to consult someone
There are
else?
5 basic principles. Do no harm, make things better, respect others, be fair, and be compassionate. And these are principles that apply not just in business, but in every relationship and in every social context. And these are the principles that apply in medicine and law as well. So these are 5 basic rules. And by the way,
You may have heard that our company has been accused of unethical business practices.
Is it because of the falsified product safety tests?
Is it because of the false stories planted in the media about our competitors?
Is it because of our crime family connections?
What? Are you saying those things are unethical too? Good God, this thing is just snowballing. Now, where was I?
How many decisions do you think you make each day? If you ask the internet, the answer will range from 70 to 35,000. If you ask us, it's the wrong question to be asking at all. That's because we're interested in ethics. We're not concerned about the quantity of your decisions. We care about their quality. You might want to think of ethics as a tool that helps us create the difference between a good decision and a bad one. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that asks the practical question, what should we do? This leads to the study of things like values, principles, beliefs, and norms. These are the things that shape our choices. Ethics asks us, how should we live? What choices should we make? And what makes our lives worth living? It tries to help us define the conditions of a good choice and then figure out which of our available options is the best one. Let's say a close friend, Lee, confides in you that they're struggling with depression. They're feeling isolated and alone, but whenever they're invited to go out, they find it impossible to do. Lee insists they don't want anyone else to know. They're trusting this information to you alone. A few days later, another friend comes to you, frustrated about Lee. Lee's flaked on plans at the last minute yet again, and your friend has had enough. They've decided they just won't bother inviting Lee out anymore. So you're torn. If Lee stops being invited to things, the isolation could make them feel even worse. Sharing information about their depression might help Lee be treated with more empathy and compassion. But it would be a breach of trust. And if Lee found out, especially in a vulnerable state, who knows what might happen? What do you do? Keep the secret and allow Lee to be socially isolated? Or break Lee's trust, but do it for their benefit? Answering this question means getting clear on what matters, our values and principles. Our values are the things we hold to be good and therefore care about most deeply. Things like justice, knowledge, family and equality. In this case, we're likely to value both trustworthiness and compassion, which pull us in different directions. So it looks like an appeal to values alone won't let us solve this dilemma. We don't just need to know what's good, we need to know what's right. This is where principles come in. They help us draw a line in the sand. They determine the acceptable ways of getting the things that we value. So what's our guiding principle with regard to Lee? Some people might adopt a principle like be true to your word, meaning you keep Lee's confidence no matter the risks. Others might be inclined towards a principle like act in people's best interests and decide that it's in Lee's best interest that people know about the depression. Of course, there are still ambiguities, which is part of what makes ethical decision-making so complicated. So how do we select which values and principles to adopt? And how do we make choices when we face a conflict of values and principles? Good versus good, right versus right. What helps to orient our judgment is a connection to purpose. What's our guiding North Star? What's our reason for being? Think about Lee again. Now, think about the purpose of friendship. What are friends for? Think about why Lee decided to tell you in confidence. Your purpose as Lee's friend is to share their life with them, the highs and the lows. But it's their life, and it's their decision on who they share it with. Lee chose to share this information with you alone. Given this, even if you prefer to act in people's best interests, thinking about purpose and thinking about Lee's purpose might encourage you to take a different path. Every time we make a choice, we change the world. What kind of world do you want to live in? Whether you make 35,000 choices a day or just one, what's important is that you make choices that are good and right. Choices you can justify, ones you can be proud of. That's what makes the choices actively yours.